ஹலோ,
ஒரே நிமிஷமா ஒரு நிமிஷம்.
அது அப்படியே கிடக்குது ஊனாவது பெனிஃபிட் இல்ல.
கண்ட்ரோல் மாத்திட்டா நீங்க எல்லாரும் மியூட் பண்ணிடுங்க.
எல்லாம் வந்துட்டாங்க ஐயா.
மியூட் பண்ணிடுங்க.
பவன்
ஏன்
குமார்
சார் வந்துட்டாங்க சார்?
எல்லாரும் வந்துட்டாங்க சார். புகழேந்தி எல்லாரும் மியூட் பண்ணிடுங்க. புகழேந்தி எல்லாரும் மியூட் பண்ணி
ஐயா தமிழ்ல ஐயா எல்லாரும் மியூட் பண்றாங்க. ஏகப்பட்ட பேர் வெயிட்டிங். ஹலோ
ஹலோ,
போன்ல லைன்ல தான் போனேன். இப்ப நான் திருப்பி
சொல்லுங்க சார்.
நான் இப்ப 7 கூட முடிச்சிருக்கேன். கண்ட கர்ம தண்ணிங்களா
அவன் என்ன பண்ணுவான்ப்பா? அதுல வரலனா
ஐயா புகழேந்தி ஐயா நம்முடைய பவன்குமார் அன்மியூட் பண்ணுங்க. பவன்குமார்
ரொம்ப கஷ்டமா இருக்கு. 100 பேருக்கு மேல இருக்காங்க. வெயிட்டிங்லயே 30 பேர் இருக்காங்க.
இப்ப யாரையும் உள்ள விட வேண்டாம். நம்ம யூடியூப் லைவ் போட்டோம். அந்த லிங்க் நான் எடுத்து போட்டுறேன். இப்ப வந்து பவன்குமார் ஹெச்ஓடி எங்க இருக்காங்க? செந்தில்குமார் சார் எங்க இருக்காங்க?
பவன்குமார்லாம் அவரே அன்மியூட் பண்ணிக்கலாமே.
பவன் நீங்களே அன்மியூட் பண்ணுங்க. பவன்குமார்.
ஹலோ பவன். ஹலோ சார் வந்துட்டு. ஐயா வணக்கம் ஐயா.
ஐயா போன் உங்க பேர் தெரியுதா? உங்க பேர் போட்டிருக்கீங்களா போன்ல?
ஆமா ஐயா பேஸ் வரல ஐயா. இது கொஞ்சம் ப்ராப்ளமா இருக்குது. அதுக்குதான் ஐயா பாக்குறேன்.
அந்த எஸ்ன்னு வருது அதுவா?
ஆமா ஐயா அதுதான் ஐயா.
உங்க முகம் வர்ற மாதிரி வீடியோ வச்சுக்கோங்க. ஐயா புகழேந்தி எஸ் சரிதா? எஸ்
ஒரு நிமிஷம் இருங்க.
அவரை குறிச்சு வச்சுக்கோங்க. எஸ்ன்னு.
எஸ் வந்து நான் தான் ஐயா.
செந்தில்குமார்.
ஐயா
ஐயா சொல்லுங்க ஐயா.
ஐயா யூடியூப் லிங்க் கொடுத்துருங்க. நான் ஃபார்வர்ட் பண்ணிடுறேன் எல்லாருக்கும்.
யூடியூப் லிங்க் அனுப்புறேன். இப்போ
அவர் வந்துட்டாரு ஐயா. இவர் முஸ்தபா சார் வந்துட்டாரு ஐயா.
வந்துட்டார் சார்.
சரி இவரு ஜெயா சார் வந்துட்டாரப்பா.
ஏஆர் சார் தான் பேர்ல தெரியல சார். நம்பர் மட்டும் அனுப்பிச்சிட்டேன். அவரு இருக்காரு அப்படியே பேச சொல்லுங்க சார்.
ஐயா
ஐயா ஜேஆருக்கு ஃபோன் பண்ணி கேளுங்க ஐயா.
ஜேஆர் கேட்றேன் ஐயா. அவரு இவரு சீஃப் கெஸ்ட் வந்துட்டாரு ஐயா.
வந்துட்டார் சார்.
வந்துட்டாரா? ஓகே 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 ஓகே.
ஆமா. I think he's the first person to come into our webinar.
ஓகே ஐயா. இப்போ நம்ம ஜேஆர் சார் வந்துட்டாரா ஸ்டார்ட் பண்ணிடலாம் ஐயா. ஒரே நிமிஷம் ஜேஆருக்கு நான் பேசுறேன் ஐயா.
vote of thanks வந்துட்டாங்க.
செந்தில் சார்.
சொல்லுங்க சார்.
நான் இருக்கேன்
சார். வந்துட்டீங்களா சார்? அப்ப சார் ஐயா தமிழன் ஐயா
வந்துட்டேன்.
ஐயா ஜேஆர் சார் வந்துட்டாரு ஐயா. நம்ம ஸ்டார்ட் பண்ணிடலாம் ஐயா.
ஜேஆர் சார் என்ன போன்ல இருக்கீங்க? உங்க பேர் இருக்கா?
ஐயா சார் எந்த நேம்ல வரீங்க சார்? ஜேஆர் சார்.
சார் என் பேர் இருக்கு மட்டும் தெரியல. ஈடன் கார்டன் இருக்கு பாருங்க.
ஈடன் கார்டன் சார். ஈடன் கார்டன் இருக்குமா சார்? அவரு சார் நேம் சார்.
ஒரே நிமிஷம் நான் பாத்துறேன். நீங்களும் கொஞ்சம் பாருங்க. ஈடன் கார்டன். தெரியுதா ஜெயா சார்? உங்க முகம் தெரியுதா எங்களுக்கு? புகழேந்தி ஐயா
இப்ப யாரையும் அட்மிட் பண்ண வேண்டாமா? வெயிட்டிங் லிஸ்ட்ல இருக்கவங்களா?
இல்ல
ஹெச்ஓடி சார் கேட்டு விட்டுருங்க சார். ஹெச்ஓடி சார் கேட்டு விட்டுருங்க சார். உள்ள
இல்ல பவன். ஈடன் கார்டன் தெரியுதா பாருப்பா பவன்? தெரியுதா மேடம்? ஓகே மேடம். சரி மேடம்.
தெரியுது. நேம் வருது கீழ வருது சார்.
ஓகே. அவரு ஜேஆர் சார் மட்டும் சொல்லுங்க மேடம். இப்ப ஸ்டார்ட் பண்ணிடலாம் மேடம்.
ஆமா வர்ஷினி
சார் சார்
சார் சொல்லுங்க சார். ஐயா சொல்லுங்க ஐயா.
ஐயா நீங்க பேசாதீங்க, நீங்க யாரும் பேசாதீங்க, ஒரே நிமிஷம் இருங்க. யாரோ ஒருத்தவங்க ஷேர் பண்றீங்க, மரிய செல்வி ஸ்கிரீன் உங்களை எடுக்க வேண்டியிருக்கோம், யாரும் ஸ்கேன் பண்ணாதீங்க.
ஆமா ஐயா,
உங்களத நாங்க வந்து ரிமூவ் பண்ணிடுவோம்.
37 பேர் வெயிட்டிங் ரூம்ல இருக்காங்க.
அவளை அனுப்பிச்சிடலாமா கேளுங்க சார். ஹெச்ஓடி சார்.
சார் பவன் சார், நானும் வந்துட்டேன்.
ஓகே ஓகே ஓகே
ஓகே சார்.
ஐயா பண்றாங்கல்ல ஐயா ஐயா புகழ்ந்து ஐயா, நம்ம இவங்க 2 பேரும் தெரியுது இல்லையா? எஸ் செந்தில்குமாரும் அந்த இதுவும் தெரியுது இல்லையா உங்களுக்கு?
முஸ்தபா சாருங்க. முஸ்தபா சார்
தெரியுது. இன்னொன்னு நம்ம
ஈடன் கார்டன் சார்
ஷேர் பண்றது யாருமா? மரிய செல்வி. மரிய செல்வி உடனடியா இது பண்ணுங்க.
போட்டோஸ் அப்லோட் பண்றேன் சார், அது ரிமூவ் பண்ணிடுறேன். போட்டோஸ் மட்டும் அப்லோட் பண்ணுங்க. சரி சார், ரிமூவ் பண்ணிடுறேன் அத. ஓகே சார்.
அப்புறம் இவங்க சம்மரைஸ் பண்ணி பேசுறாங்கல்ல.
இருக்கேன் சார், லைன்ல தான் சார் இருக்கேன்.
உங்க பேரு
அமுதா மகேந்திரன் சார்.
அமுதா மகேந்திரன்.
ஐயா ஒரு 2 நிமிடம் யாரும் பேசாதீங்க, நானும் புகழேந்தி மட்டும் பேசிக்கிறோம். ஐயா புகழேந்தி ஐயா, முதல்ல செந்தில்குமார் இருக்காங்க இல்லையா, அவங்க தான் ஃபர்ஸ்ட் பேசுவாங்க. குறிச்சுக்கோங்க. எஸ் செந்தில்குமார் முதல்ல பேசுவாங்க.
சரி.
அடுத்தது இந்த ஈடன்
அவங்களே அன்மியூட் பண்ணிக்க மாட்டாங்களா?
என்னங்கயா? இல்ல
அவங்களே அன்மியூட் பேச மாட்டாங்களா?
ஐடியா வச்சுக்கோங்க, பாத்துக்கலாம். ஈடன் கார்டன்ஸ். ஐயா உங்க மைக்க நீங்களே கை வச்சு அன்மியூட் பண்ணிக்கலாம், நான் சொல்லும் போது பேசிக்கலாம்.
கண்டுபிடிக்கிறதே பெரிய விஷயமா இருக்கு.
ஆமா ஆமா சார். நீங்க சார் உங்க மைக் நீங்களே அன்மியூட் பண்ணி பேச கத்துக்கிட்டீங்க, ஒன்னும் பிரச்சனை இல்ல. இவங்களுக்கு தெரியல ஈடன் கார்டன்ஸ். அவர் ஜபராஜ் சாருக்கு. ஜபராஜ் சார் நீங்களே அன்மியூட் பண்ணி பேசுறீங்களா?
பேசுறேன் ஐயா.
அப்ப உங்களுக்கு தெரியும். அப்ப ரைட்டு. அடுத்ததா இவங்க நம்முடைய 2 மேடம் இருக்காங்க இல்லையா, அடுத்து சம்மர் பண்ணி பேசக்கூடிய இவங்க
அமுதா மகேந்திரன்.
அமுதா மேடம்.
ஆமா ஓகே ஐயா, ஸ்டார்ட் பண்ணலாம் ஐயா.
ஓகே ஓகே, லெட்ஸ் ஸ்டார்ட் தி மீட்டிங்.
மேபி அட்மிட் பண்ணலாமா?
அவங்க எல்லாரும் அட்மிட் பண்ணிடுங்க. அவங்க எல்லாரும் அட்மிட் பண்ணுங்க.
இல்ல ஐயா கொஞ்சம் வெயிட் பண்ணுங்க ஐயா, மத்தவங்க எல்லாம் வருவாங்க. இந்த ஐயா தமிழ் ஐயா இப்ப எத்தனை பேர் வந்தாலும் அது வரைக்கும் மத்தவங்க யூடியூப்ல ஆரம்பிச்சிருங்க ஐயா.
போட்டேன்.
இப்ப ஸ்டார்ட் பண்ணிடலாம் ஐயா நம்ம நிகழ்ச்சியை.
ஓகே ஓகே.
தமிழ்ல நீ இப்ப அட்மிட் பண்ணலாமா வேண்டாமா?
அவங்க எல்லாரும் அட்மிட் பண்ணிடுங்க. அட்மிட் பண்ணி மியூட் போட்டுருங்க.
என்ன பேசுறாரு? என்ன கேட்க மாட்டேங்க.
யாரும் உங்க மைக்க அன்மியூட் பண்ணாம இருந்தாலோ
சொல்றியா?
ஷேர் பண்ணாம இருந்தா இது பண்ண முடியும், இல்லனா உங்களை ரிமூவ் பண்ணிடுவோம். Thank you
சார். செந்தில் சார்.
சார் உங்களுக்கு மட்டும் தான் சார் மியூட்ல வச்சு, இது அன்மியூட்ல வச்சீங்க சார். நம்ம தான் சார்.
என்ன சார்? செந்தில் சார்
சொல்லுங்க.
சொல்லுங்க சார். செந்தில் ஜபராஜ் எல்லாரும் மியூட்ல வைங்கயா.
நான் பேசுறது கேக்குதா?
கேக்குது சார். கேக்குது, எனக்கு கேக்குது.
சரி ஓகே. அதுதான் நான் பேசும்போது சொல்லுங்க, பேசிடுறேன்.
ஓகே. ஓகே ஜபராஜ் சார் தானே?
ஜபராஜ் சார் பேசுறது கேக்குது எனக்கு.
நான் சொல்றேங்கயா, நான் சொல்றேன்.
என்ன பண்ணுங்க?
ஐயா எல்லாரும் மைக்கும் மியூட் போட்டுருங்க, இன்னது தவிர.
ஆமா ஐயா, ஸ்டார்ட் பண்ணுங்க ஐயா.
யாருமே அன்மியூட் பண்ணாதீங்க. செந்தில்குமார் ஜபராஜ் சார் உட்பட யாருமே அன்மியூட் பண்ணாதீங்க.
ஆமா ஐயா,
வரும்போது அன்மியூட் பண்ணிக்கலாம். Thank you.
ஓகே.
Friends, have a good day. A very warm welcome to you all to this beautiful and wonderful program. Today we are having a webinar on how to publish a research in top tier journals by our honorable and respected chief guest, Dr. Syed Mustafa Rasul. We extend a warm welcome to Dr. Syed Mustafa Rasuli Manish for gracing this event with his presence. This is your host Tamiliyalan from MGR Research Institute. But this is the introductory speech by C.P. Senthilkumar, Head of the Department of Commerce. Pinpoint the motto behind this webinar and to you, Dr. C.
Hello. Hello. ஐயா பேசலாம் ஐயா. Good afternoon one and all. Dr. MGR Education Research Institute University, Department of Commerce, he has conducted a wonderful session today. Honorable Speaker, Dr. Mustafa sir, heartily welcome, sir. And beloved, my joint sister, Dr. Jabra sir, heartily welcome, sir. Other participation, heartily welcome. It is a continuous, two section here completed. Today, started from the international speaker. So, heartily welcome, sir. Thank you, sir. Hello, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Sindhil Kumar sir, for the wonderful beginning of this webinar. Next, over to Dr. Jabaraj sir, Joint Registrar of Dr. MGR Education and Research Institute. He is going to deliver the keynote address of this webinar, and he will also introduce our chief guest of this day. And it is your time, Dr. Jabaraj sir. Jabaraj sir, நீங்க unmute பண்ணிட்டு பேசுங்க.
Hello.
Jabaraj sir, பேசுங்க.
Hello.
It's over to Dr. Jabaraj. Joint research, sir.
Hey.
Is it audible? Is it audible?
Sir, பேசுறது கேக்குறதா சார்?
Sir, நீங்க unmute பண்ணுங்க சார்.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Joint research, sir. It's your time.
Yes,
you can talk.
I'm Dr. Jabaraj.
Yes, sir. It's audible. You can talk.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon to all. On behalf of Dr. MGR Educational and Research Institute, I welcome Dr. Syed Mustafa and other professors and all participants of various universities and colleges. I am Dr. Deep Jabaraj, Joint Registrar Engineering Science of Dr. MGR Educational and Research Institute, Chennai. Our university is one of the prestigious 30 years old graded autonomous status university, which is located at the heart of the city, Chennai, Tamil Nadu. We have a lot of courses and departments under different faculties like engineering, technology, medicine, H&S, law, and so on. I appreciate the Department of Commerce, Dr. MGR Education and Research Institute for conducting the webinar this crucial period. I would like to introduce our speaker, Dr. Syed Mustafa. He is Associate Professor of the School of Hospitality, Tourism and Events in Taylor's University. He does his PhD in the topic Urban Planning and Management, University Sains, Malaysia. His area of expertise in various fields like sustainable tourism, heritage tourism, advanced quantitative analysis techniques, etc. He has published more than 70 articles in high impact journals, and he is an editorial board member of more than 10 reputed journals. I would like to say that today's webinar topic, how to publish our research in top tier journals, will help to enhance the knowledge of the participants. With this, I am finishing my words. Have a nice day, a nice and wonderful day. Once again, thank you. Hello. Yes, sir.
That is a wonderful keynote address from our joint director, Mr. Jabaraj sir. He has given a wonderful introductory to our chief guest also.
Thank you, sir.
We have moved on to the central part of this webinar. Now I would request our honorable speaker, Dr. Syed Mustafa. One minute. Sir, now I would request our honorable speaker, Dr. Syed Mustafa Rasuli Manish, to start his presentation. It's over to our chief guest. Thank you, sir. Please.
Okay. Thank you very much. Good afternoon to all. Just check. You clearly can hear me? My voice is clear?
Yes, sir. It's audible and it's very clear too.
Okay. First, thank you very much, Dr. MGR University and the organizer of this webinar today. and I'm very happy that today I can share some thought about publication in top-tier journals. And also, I would like to thank my good friend, the Associate Professor Dr. Kandapan, for give this opportunity to me and organizing this webinar. So today, actually, I want to talk about publication in top-tier journals. But before going to publication, you introduced me, but just I want to say something to introduce myself because I will use this introduction in my presentation. Okay, let me start with the share my screen. Okay, as you introduced, I'm an associate professor in Taylor's University, Malaysia now in the School of Hospitality, Tourism and Event. And actually, I published about 70 articles in different journals, in top-tier journals, and this is my Hoplon's profile, right? So I'm also reviewer for more than 40 tourism, hospitality, and management journals. Some of them are very top-tier journal and SSCI index journals. Only within 12 months, last 12 months, I review about 90 papers for SSCI journal in tourism, hospitality, and management. So this is for 12 months ago, within 12 months. And in total, I reviewed more than 300 papers for tourism, hospitality, and management journals. And I'm editorial board of more than 10 journals, and now I'm associate editor of the Journal of Hospitality and Tourism Management. This journal is the SSCI journal, and impact of this journal is 2.49. So I'm associate editor of this journal, and also a special editor of Journal of Hospitality and Tourism Technology, and editorial board of a few journals. This is my Scopus profile. Okay, now you can see I have 52 articles published and indexed in Scopus, and also I have a few on the way. So this will be about 60, right? But I actually started to do research, to do serious research, and publish in good journals from 2014. So you can see my profile. I have a few papers before 2014, a few papers in some journals, but my first SSCI application is 2014 in CITES journal. So CITES is a very good and high impact journal in urban studies. So I continue to publish and to do research. So after only a few years, you can see I have about 60 publications, and still I'm continuing to do research and publication. Okay, so publication is not difficult job, can be easily happen, but needs some requirement. Today, actually, I want to talk about these requirements. How, what's the requirement, and how can we publish our work in good journals? Okay, so let me stop this one and share my presentation. Okay, now you can see my slide, right? Okay. The topic of this seminar is how to publish in our research in top-tier journals. a few things need for publication and the requirement to publish our work in good journals. The first thing is positive attitude and passion. Of course, without positive attitude and without passion for research and publication, this cannot be happen. We cannot publish in good journal and we cannot do good quality research just because we think this is our duty and I want to fulfill my KPI, I want to publish because if I don't publish, this will happen. And so because of that, this task will be very difficult. Right? So this will be difficult if we don't have passion and positive publication and doing research. Another criteria for doing a good research and publication is hardworking. This process is not easy process. Need hard work and we need to do many things and fulfill many requirements to be ready for publication. So hard working is part of this story and one of the key criteria for this process and publication. Another thing is time management. We need to spend specific time for doing research and for publication. We cannot spend our time to many different jobs and only we spare a few times that we want to rest and we don't have any other things to do. So in this time we try to do some research and prepare our paper for publication. It's not possible. We have to be prepared and we have to spend enough time. So actually we need to locate our research in our schedule and spend enough time to do research. So time management is another criteria that is necessary for doing research and of course for publication. I'm using research and publication together because you cannot separate these two parts. Publication is not possible without a good quality research. So good quality research can be conclude to a good publication and publication of a good paper, good quality paper, right? And another thing is some skills. And these skills of writing and actually preparing paper is some skills that we need to learn, right? So without these skills also is not possible to publish. Another thing is get familiar with publishing work. We need to understand the publishing work, right? What's the characteristic of this work and how we need to prepare our paper and what's the process of publication, how we need to submit our work, how can we follow the process of submission, and then after submission, what we need to do, and after we get a comment from the reviewer, what we need to do. And the last one is, and maybe the most one is patience. We need to be patient. There is not any shortcut for publication process, right? There is not any fast track to reach publication. Okay, I want to prepare my paper, and then after a few weeks, I will be able to publish my work. So there is not any shortcut for publication. We need to be patient, and patience is one of the key for publication process, right? in this webinar, and also other person cannot do anything for a few of these requirements. Cannot do anything for positive attitude and passion. Cannot do anything for patience, right? Also, time management and hard working is something that you need to commit and do it. But in this session, I want to briefly discuss these two parts: skills of writing and get familiar with the publishing world. So what's the component of this world, and actually what skill we need and what we need to consider when we want to publish our work. Okay. Why do we need to publish? Okay. The first thing we need to solve, and we need to find answer. Addition to passion, right? Passion is most critical and most important criteria for publication. But addition to passion, why we need to publish? Actually, we need to publish to sustain our career and job, promotion, grant. So without publication, you know, most of us cannot get promotion. We need publication for our KPI. So based on a different institution and universities, we need to fulfill a few number of publication per year. So to sustain our job, so we have to publish. And for promotion, we need to fulfill some criteria. If we want to apply for some grants, we need to have a good record of publication based on the grant institution that we apply for a grant and the requirement of our university. So this is the first thing that we need to publish because we need for our career. Another things, okay, when we publish, we contribute to our institution, our university. So reputation of our university depends on our work, depends on our publication. So if we publish in good journals, so it means we can improve the reputation of our university, the reputation of our institution. So our publication can contribute to university, and also university expect this from us. So because of that, our promotion, sustaining our job also need to publish because university want it, right? So contribution to reputation of university and our institution is another reason that we need to publish. But there are some more important reasons. Of course, when we publish, we can disseminate the result of our research. Without publication, our research is only can be in library, right? Or in research center as a report of our research without publication. But when we publish our research, all can be benefited from our research and use the result of our research. So by this, we can contribute to theory, we can contribute to knowledge, we can have a significant contribution, change the board of knowledge based on our research and our publication. And also we can impact on society and community. So by our contribution, by publishing our work, we can have public contribution to knowledge and theory, and also contribution to industry and our community and society. So publication is meaningful job because of many reasons, right? And we need to do it, right? Okay. For publication, there are three main phases. Today I will try to cover these three phases and show you something about each phase. And what we need to do in each phase, actually what's the skill and information that we need for each stage and each phase. These three phases are before submission. Second one is submission to journal, and after submission. We need to add three different phases to reach the stage of publication. So after these three stages, our paper can be accepted and then can be published in good journal. So we need to do something in these three different phases to be ready for acceptance of our paper and publication of our paper. The first phase is before submission. Before submission means preparation of your paper. This is very important phase of publication. Can say this is the most important phase of publication. Without preparing a very good quality paper, it's not possible to publish in a good journal. So the first thing is to prepare our paper with a very good quality. But one thing, this is the structure of paper, how a good quality paper looks like. But one thing always we should keep in our mind that a good quality paper only can come from a good quality research. So without a good quality research, we cannot prepare a good quality paper. Actually, paper publication is result of our research. So our paper can be a good quality, can be an acceptable quality if we already done a good quality, right? So when we complete a good quality research, when we have done a good quality research, so we can prepare our paper and proceed with our paper and submit to good journal, right? So let's assume that we have done a good research and now we have the result of our research. The first phase for preparing paper based on the result of our research is structure our paper in a good quality way. Here you can see the common structure of each paper. If you look at the papers published in good quality journals, you can see these, especially in social science. I'm not talking about science. The structure of science paper is a bit different, but in social science disciplines, you can see this structure as a common structure for published paper in good quality journals. Our paper has a title, abstract, introduction, literature review, methodology, result and finding, discussion, and conclusion. The big conclusion include recommendation and some limitation and contribution of our research. But how should we craft each part to prepare a good quality paper? First part is title. For title, our title should represent our research, should be very attractive and eye-catching. When you submit your paper to a journal, reviewer, and before that, editor of journal, the first thing that's seen in your paper is title of your paper. So title should represent the content of your work, content of your paper. So should be very eye-catching, should be very attractive, right? And can represent the meaning and the content of your paper. Okay. I want to show you some of my papers in this webinar for different parts of papers. For first part, I will show you some of my papers and see how we can craft title, abstract, introduction, and different parts. So you can see a real example from real world, right? Instead of just talking about something and you cannot figure out what is this about. Okay, so let me share. Okay. Okay, this is one of my papers that I published, this paper in Tourism Management Journal in 2017. Now tourism management is top tourism journal, and the impact of management is 6 point something for 2018, but 2019 the impact factor will come out on June, and I think that the impact factor of this journal will be higher this year. Okay, this is one paper that I published in tourism management. This is another paper. Also, I published this paper in tourism management in 2017. And this is one of recent paper that I published in Journal of Travel Research. Journal of Travel Research is second tourism, hospitality, and travel journal, with the impact of, if I'm not mistaken, 5.6 something. Okay. For this three paper, now our topic, our discussion and topic is title of paper, right? Okay. The title of my paper is, first paper is Community Participation in World Heritage Site and Tourism Development. World Heritage Site Conservation and Tourism Development, right? So the topic is very concise and just focus on a few concepts. Community participation. So it means in this paper, community participation, focus of this paper. So community participation is critical in this paper. And community participation in World Heritage Site conservation and tourism development. So in this paper, we focus on these three concepts. Community participation is main concept, but community participation of who? Community participation of residents in World Heritage Site about conservation and tourism development, right? So if we go to the paper, okay, you can see here in the paper, I have also other variable and construct. For example, here I have the motivation, I have opportunity, ability, and under each one, I have positive perception, negative perception, interest, opportunity, knowledge, and awareness. If you look at sum of paper, the title include all variable and all concept that this paper is going to cover. Oh, so for this paper, I should put community participation and tourism impact and resident perception and opportunity and knowledge and ability. So this will be boring for reader. But here you can see a few keywords in title. So, but it's very subjective and depend on your understanding of your work and your paper. But the key is title should be attractive? And what do you think, what title you think based on your research can be attractive for editor and also for reviewer? This is another example. In this paper, we discuss resident perception, again, community participation and support for tourism development. But we added one keyword in title: urban versus rural destination. So it means in this paper, the focus of this paper is on comparison between rural and urban resident. Rural and urban resident for their perception and participation and support. But this comparison is key. So anybody see this title, understand, okay, a comparison between urban and rural destination can be focus of this research. And another, this paper we published in 2020. So it's very hot from ON, right? So this paper assessing the mediating role of resident perception. So assessing of mediation is the key in this paper. Somebody may say, okay, assessing of mediation is methodological contribution. How can be a focus of a paper that published in Journal of Travel Research, very high impact factor journal? But actually here is not only a methodological contribution. We highlight and discuss in the literature and hypothesis development that this is a significant gap in the literature. So we actually focus on assessing mediation in this paper, and then in the body of paper we highlight this gap. So anybody see this title can understand, okay, this paper have something for mediating role of resident perception. Okay, so the first thing that your title should be eye-catching and attractive, right? So don't use general word and many different words, your variable in title. Try to summarize and just give the focus of your paper and attract attention of editor and reviewer. Another important part of a paper, good paper, is abstract. Actually, abstract is one part, one of the first and important part that when you submit your paper to a journal, reviewer read this, editor read this part, read abstract, and also if the editor decide to send out for review, the reviewer first thing that read and accept or decline to review your paper, and then after accepting to review your paper, read this part to understand the concept of your paper is abstract. So abstract should not be disappointing for editor and for reviewers. If your abstract is boring and you just provide the general information, so it's a sign for editor that the desk reject your paper. So you need to consider and you need to pay attention to write a good abstract for your paper. So what's the component of a good abstract? Generally, an abstract should be started with the objective of your paper. So very briefly, you can see the objective of you need to write, and the editor and reviewer can see the objective of your paper in first of the beginning of your abstract. Okay, for example, in this paper, This study investigates the factor contributing to community participation in World Heritage Site, okay, using motivation, opportunity, and ability model or theory, right? So we examine the effects of these factors on 3 levels of community participation. So in these 2 sentences, we explain the objective of paper. So clearly, at the beginning of abstract, you have to start with objective, right? And they clarify objective of your research. Then you can continue, and it's good to continue with method. But here, because of limitation of this journal, we don't talk about method, and we directly go to finding. Okay, if you see this paper investigates and compare the effects of resident perception of the impact of tourism on community participation and support for tourism development across urban and rural World Heritage sites. Okay, partial least squares structural equation modeling has been employed to perform the analysis, right? So here, very, very briefly, we explain the method, analysis method. But also you can, it depends on your study, you can cover your sample, where did you collect your sample, and what's the method that you apply for data analysis, right? For example, in this paper, framed by social exchange theory and Weber theory, this study investigates the mediating role of resident perception. So the objective should be first. It examined whether community attachment and environmental attitude and cultural attitude, economic gain, and community involvement directly impact on resident perception for tourism, or if their influence are mediated by perception of tourism impact. Data were collected from data were collected from resident within 2 historical cities in Iran, Kashan and Tabriz. So here we explain our study areas. So first part is objective. Second part, very brief explanation of your methodology, your data collection and your method. Then finding. After methodology, the next important and very important part in your abstract, and you cannot skip this part, is finding. You need to present brief finding of your research. The finding revealed that resident perception of tourism impact play a significant mediator role in shaping the relationship between community attachment, environmental attitude, and economic gain. So here you need to explain your finding. The findings show that motivation had the greatest positive effect on the low level of community participation. Opportunity had the greatest effect on the high level of community participation. Among the dimension of ability, namely awareness and knowledge, the findings show that more aware residents were more interested in low level of community participation. Various residents with more knowledge were more interested in high level of participation, right? So the next part of next important part in abstract is finding. So you need to present the result of your research and finding of your research very, very briefly. And the next very, very important part is, okay, so what? What's your research about? What's contribution of your research? So in abstract, based on your finding, you need to explain your theoretical, and you have, if you have space to expand your abstract, what's the practical implications? Very, very briefly. So this study contributes to the tourism development and World Heritage Site conservation and management literature by examining the effects of MOA factors on 3 levels of community participation. So this is the unique contribution of this paper. Or for this paper, for example, This study makes a significant theoretical contribution to the urban and rural tourism and resident perception literature by comparing rural and urban World Heritage Site residents. Right? So the next part after finding is contribution of your paper. And you need to explain very briefly the contribution in abstract. If you have a space to expand, you can explain something about practical implication, or furthermore, this study has a number of, you can just mention this study has a number of practical implication for local authorities that you will discuss in body of your research, your paper. So this is a key part of the abstract. Start with objective, continue with the method, then your finding, and very important, your contribution and practical implication. So you can conclude and close your abstract by these key parts. Okay, so this is the some example for title and also a structure of your abstract. If you have any question, you can stop me and ask you your question if it's related to the topic that I discussed. If also you can wait until end of my presentation and then you ask your question. Okay. Okay. So again, go back to presentation. Okay. So the title and abstract we discuss what should be included in abstract and what title should look like. Another important part, actually the next part of your paper is introduction. Introduction also is very important and critical part of your paper. When you pass first a preliminary evaluation by editor and your paper is sent for review to reviewers, one of the first part that reviewers start to read, and based on this part, he or she decides to read other part of your paper. And how read other part of your paper is introduction. So introduction is very important to sell your paper. If you want to sell your paper with a good price, you need to spend good time to write a good introduction. Actually, introduction after abstract explain the importance of your paper. And actually in an abstract, you can promote, you can market your paper, right? So you need to write a very good introduction. Okay, what introduction should include? The first important part of introduction is to highlight and clarify problem and gap. So you can start with the very, very briefly general topic explanation about a general topic related to your paper. And then maybe you can spend the maximum 1 paragraph for general discussion. And then based on this general discussion and background, you need to go to problem and gap. So you have to link between, let's say second paragraph is problem statement and gap, and first paragraph is background and general explanation about your topic, So you need to write first paragraph and narrow down first paragraph to reach a gap in second paragraph, to reach a problem in second paragraph, right? So at the end of first paragraph, you need to create a link with the problem statement and research gap. And then go to second paragraph of your introduction. And in second paragraph, you can clarify and explain in detail clearly about gap and problem statement, right? So problem statement is one of the most critical and important parts that should be covered in your introduction. And then after you clarify problem and gap, actually when you clarify problem and gap, it means you say to the reader, you say to the reader that why my paper is important, right? So this part is very, very important. And later we can see this should be and can be connected to and practical implication of your work. So when the reviewer read your paper, will ask, okay, you explain something, but so what? What's the importance of your paper? Why you want to do this research? What you have done? So in problem statement as gap is a good place, introduction, to highlight these importance, why your paper is important, right? So based on problem statement and gap, you explain and clarify your research objective. So research objective is something that you want to address, to solve that problem or to fill that gap. So after explaining your research problem and gap, you can identify and clearly explain your research objective. But all these parts should be interconnected. The first background, first paragraph should be connected to actually the reader and reviewer should see a clear flow from first part to problem statement and gap, then to your objective and research question, if you have research question. Then to address this research objective, if you have any key theory or some concept that you want to explain and you want to clarify in introduction, you can explain based on your objective and then significance of your study. Here, again, you need to explain significance of your study at the end of your introduction. Actually, in research, we say introduction is whole research without result. Okay, so still we don't have result. Result is discussed in finding and discussion part. But in introduction, we need to explain research gap, problem, and then objective or research questions and the significance of our study. So this significance later in conclusion will be discussed in detail as a theoretical contribution, as a practical implications. So in introduction, we need to clarify these different parts. Okay, let me show one introduction. Okay. Okay, again, go back to these papers. This is a first paper about community participation in World Heritage conservation and tourism development. So You can see the flow of this introduction. A number of studies are focused on community participation. So general discussion about community participation, right? But one of the key part of this paper is, and one of the main contribution and gap is, we have some study on community participation, but all previous studies only consider participation as a unique construct, variable, and apply some items to measure community participation. But one of the significance of this study and the differences of this study with previous study is community participation in this study is divided to 3 different levels. And we assess the effects of influencing factors on these 3 levels, right? So in next paragraph, we explain various types of community participation and different levels of community participation. So we discuss these different layers. If you look at in this paragraph, between each paragraph, you need to create a link. In addition, community participation in local increased sense of belonging. So here we go from community participation to different level of community participation. And then after this, here we explain that with this in mind, what is the process for successfully community participation? So here we want to go to factors influence on the successful implementation of community participation, different layers. Here we say, nonetheless, the MOA model lacks sufficient empirical support. There being a paucity of literature attesting to its predictive power for investigating community participation in different contexts, in particular in heritage, tourism, and heritage management. In light of this gap, the literature, in light of this gap in the literature, the current study seeks to examine the effects of motivation, opportunity, and ability on 3 different levels of community participation. So here, after 2 paragraphs, we can go to problem and gap, and then explain the objective. Explain the objective and the significance of this study. This is another example. In this paper, we compare rural and urban. So we explain about support for resident perception and support for tourism development in rural and urban, and what's the difference? What's the difference between?
3 மணிக்கு போட்டுருக்காரே. ஜூம் மீட்டிங் போட்டுருக்காரு, ஆன்லைன் கிளாसेस 3 பத்தி ஆன்லைன் கிளாஸ், கேட் எக்ஸாம் ரிப்போர்ட் பத்தி பண்றதுக்கு. நான் உங்களை பத்தி அது கிளாஸ் அட்வைசர் வந்து ஒரு சப்ஜெக்ட்டா கேட்க சொல்லிருக்காருல்ல அதுல.
Sorry sir, 1 minute.
So after this explanation, a comparison between the residents of urban and rural tourism destination in terms of their perception about tourism development, as well as the effects of these perception on community participation, is the core of this study, and the lack of a study on this comparison. So the current study, so here is the objective after clarifying the gap. So the current studies particularly valuable given the comparison between rural and urban World Heritage communities in the developing country. So here we also link to significance. So it doesn't mean that we need to explain all these different parts in different paragraphs and different sections. We can combine, we can merge these different parts, but we need to clearly cover all these parts. We need to explain the gap and problem statement. We need to, based on this gap and problem statement, we need to clarify research objective or research question, and then significance of our study in introduction, right? So this is for introduction and the component of introduction. Another part is the literature review. In literature review, there are some differences between qualitative and quantitative research. In quantitative research, here these three papers that I have as an example are quantitative research, right? So in quantitative research, in literature review, we need to develop hypotheses, right? So for hypothesis development, two very, very important things to support and justify each hypothesis is theory and previous empirical studies. So to create and to craft a good literature review for especially quantitative research, we need to have a very strong and established theoretical framework. Theoretical framework doesn't mean your study and actually your hypothesis that at the end of your literature review, you give a figure that explain the relationship between a variable and all your hypotheses. This is conceptual framework. Theoretical framework is a theory or more than one theory that support your hypothesis and relationship between your variable. Theoretical framework is very critical for crafting literature review for quantitative research. So when we structure our literature review, we need to explain a specific theory, an established theory, or more than one theory that we think this theory or these theories can support our hypothesis, right? So a critical part of literature review in quantitative research is theoretical framework. For example, in this paper, if we go to literature review, you can see theoretical framework of this paper. In this paper, we apply two theories, social exchange theory and Weber theory. So we apply these two theories and combine these two theories to support our framework. So you can see in the flow of literature, we explain each hypothesis based on one of these theories and also based on some empirical studies. So when you introduce theory that you apply in your study, you have to support, you have to justify each hypothesis based on your applied theory. So this is a good way to craft your literature review for quantitative research. And at the end of your literature review, you can see your framework, you can draw your framework, and this framework includes all of your hypotheses that you already justify and supported by your applied theory. But in qualitative, story is a bit different. In qualitative, actually quantitative research is a deductive research that we start from theory to develop our hypothesis and collect data to test or revalidate our theory and framework. But in qualitative research, we apply inductive research. So at the beginning, sometimes we don't have established theory. So if we don't have any established theory for qualitative research, it's fine, because qualitative research in literature, we need to focus on some main concept, right? But at the end, sometimes we are supposed to develop theory in qualitative research. But in quantitative, story is different, and we have to explain our theoretical framework and then justify our hypothesis for theoretical framework. Okay, then go back to presentation. Okay. So in the literature, here you can see some different components of literature review for quantitative and qualitative research. So theory is a must in quantitative research, but also in theory, we have two main types of theory, structural theory and measurement theory. Structural theory refers to relationship between variables that support our hypothesis, but measurement theory refers to measurement of our concept. For example, if you have intention to revisit, intention to purchase a product, and some variable like subjective norm, attitude. In literature also, we need to explain how do we measure each construct, each variable. So we call this part measurement theory. So a good literature review for paper need to cover these two, theoretical framework and support hypothesis by theoretical framework and structural theory, and also explain measurement. Research methodology should be robust. So we need to explain in detail different parts of our research methodology. Some journals are very sensitive and particular about research methodology, very strict about research methodology. So in research methodology, we should be very clear. Explain our research method. Later, I will show you some guideline for tourism management journal that for methodology part, and see what this journal wants the author include in methodology part. So, but in general, methodology should explain our method and justify. If we apply quantitative or qualitative, we need to justify what's the reason and what's the justification that we apply quantitative method to address the objective of this research, or we apply qualitative for this research. We need a strong justification. Another part in methodology is very critical is data collection. How did you collect your data? What's your sampling method? Who are your respondents? Who are your population members? Why you choose this sampling method? Right? So you need to be very clear and explain process of data collection, and then analysis. What data analysis technique you apply and why? What justification? Recently, there are a debate between for application of structural equation modeling. Actually, we have two main types under structural equation modeling: covariance-based SEM and PLSM. So each method, there are some people that support this method, and also there are somebody that are against of this method. So there are debate between these two groups. And if you submit your work, and especially you apply this type of methods, editor and reviewer will ask you strong justification for application of these methods. This applies for any method that you use in your study. You need to explain and justify data analysis technique, what data analysis technique you use and why. Another part of your paper is result and finding. So based on your data and analyzing your data, you have your result. So in other section, you need to explain result and finding, but for reporting result also should be robust and apply recent criteria related to the method that you apply. For example, if you apply structural equation modeling, so you need to report some certain criteria for your result. And without these criteria, you will have a challenge and face some conflict because reviewer want to make sure that you totally are familiar with this method that you apply. So you need to read the recent articles and especially published article in the journal that you target to submit your paper and see how they report and what are the criteria for reporting this type of analysis technique. So in result and finding, you report the result and the finding of your research. And discussion part, you need to discuss your result in connection with literature. So the linkage between literature and your finding and results is very critical and important. Sometimes your result is consistent with previous study. You found something that also previous study have found. So you need to explain why your result is consistent, especially if your result is inconsistent. For example, you hypothesize some relationship, but based on your data, you could not support this relationship. So your result is inconsistent. You need to justify and explain why your result is inconsistent with previous study. And the last part is conclusion. In conclusion, the key part is theoretical contribution and practical implication. Conclusion is another part that helps you to sell your paper. You need to very clearly highlight and explain your theoretical contribution, because for all top tier journals, theoretical contribution is very important and critical. Without theoretical contribution, it's not possible to publish top tier journal. So in conclusion, you need to explain your theoretical contribution and also practical implication if there are some limitation in your paper and some area and recommendation for future research. So this is some main part that I try to cover for first phase, preparation of your paper. Here, there are some points from one of the editor of journal, Professor Dimitris Bohalis. He's editor-in-chief of Tourism Review journal. This journal is a very good journal. So you can see here some point that why a paper can be rejected based on quality of paper. The article doesn't follow the Tourism Review style format. The article is too long and short. Abstract doesn't reflect the actual article. There is nothing new and innovative, so there is no clear contribution. So the paper make little contribution to theory. The engagement with literature is limited, means you haven't cited the related literature. Methodology needs more clarification, support, and justification. So method is weak, it's shallow. The sample is very limited. The analysis is very descriptive and need more critical approach and depth. Data analysis is incorrect. So you didn't apply correct criteria for data analysis. Or discussion of result is limited and is not connected to literature, and sometimes English needs major editing. But this one cannot be a major reason for rejection. So you can see when you want to submit your paper, you need to make sure about quality of your paper. And for quality, you need to make sure about different parts of your paper. This is a key. Okay, before going to next phase, just very can find okay, tourism guideline, tourism management guideline. Okay, this is a guideline from Tourism Management Journal. Right? Tourism management is one of the best. Tourism management is very strict about methodology, right? And this guideline is for preparation. Okay, you can see here for methodology. If your paper is quantitative, so you need to consider all these criteria for quantitative research. You attach a copy of questionnaire, a list of items used in your scale should be attached, and the means and the standard deviation, skewness, cortices is requested. The use of structural equation modeling is a popular technique, and so the referees want to see how you deal with missing data and what's the normality of your data. Testing of adequacy of sample size is very important and should be undertaken. And details as the means of collecting the sample should be provided. So here you can see some requirement for preparing quantitative research. Also, this journal provides some points for qualitative research and also for mixed method. So you can see very detailed about what your methodology should look like, right? So it's very important to prepare if you want to publish in good journal. It's very important to prepare a good paper, right? Okay, so go back to presentation. Okay, you can see my presentation now? Yes? Okay, so next phase of publication is submission process. Submission process, okay, just one question. This session will continue until when? Because I have many things to discuss, but what's the time for?
Sir, if you want, you can take 10 more minutes, sir. No problem.
10 more minutes.
Yes, sir. The house is full. Everybody is keen on observing you. They are giving good feedbacks and messages also, chat also. If
okay,
you want,
but
you can take it.
Okay, I try to be the faster. Submission process for submitting your paper. When you prepare a good article, for first phase, you need to submit your paper. So before that, you need to find a good journal, a good platform for submission of your article. Okay, there are different ways to find a good journal. One is look at your references list and see what journal you cited most. So it means you, this journal is your topic is interest of this journal because already published many papers related to your topic and you cited many of those papers. So the first thing is most cited journal in your paper. Another one is journal finder. There are different publishers have journal finders. Actually, I wanted to show you this journal finder, but we don't have time to go through each one. Elsevier has a journal finder, Springer has a journal suggester, and also Wiley has a journal finder. So you can go to this platform of this publisher and just copy and paste your title and abstract, and among the journal of this publisher, this platform will suggest some journals that are suitable for your paper. So you can find this journal finder. I will share this presentation later with you, so you can go through the part that I cannot cover. So this is a journal finder that you can use to find a good journal and platform for your research. Another one is special issues. You can search for available special issues for good journal that you target to publish, right? For example, now, because of this COVID-19, there are many COVID-19 special issue in tourism. If I'm not mistaken, 11 or 12 special issues at the moment. Many good journals now have a special issue to publish papers on COVID-19, on tourism. So Special issue can be a good platform and can increase your chance for publication, because actually your topic is related to this special issue and you can find a good platform for your research, and also editors are interested to your topic. Another one is good and reputed publisher. So when you want to find a good journal for your paper and your topic, we have different publishers, right? But a few of these publishers are very good and reputed publisher. So you can make sure that if you choose some journal from this publisher, this journal will be good quality journal and is not predatory journals, right? This publisher depends on your area, can be different, right? But in social science, Elsevier, Taylor and Francis, Sage, Emerald, Wiley, and Springer are 6 main publishers and very good reputed publishers. Also, we have Inter Science and other publishers. So you can find, but these publishers are good publishers that you can trust. And if you find a journal in this publisher, it means that this journal is good quality journal. Another way, so try to find good journal and don't publish your paper in predatory journals. Predatory journals are fake journals. Most of paid journals are predatory, right? And it's not reputable in many different disciplines. Some of them are also blacklisted in some countries or universities. Another way to find a good journal for your study is searching in different, in these index systems. We have a few index systems that journal can be indexed in these platforms. One of the most famous and well-known is Clarivate. Clarivate before was known Web of Science or Thomson Reuters, but now the name is Clarivate, and all SSCI or SCI or ESCI journals have index under Clarivate. SSCI Social Science Citation Index or SCI Science Citation Index, or ESCI is Emerging Source Citation Index, right? So all these journals are indexed under Clarivate, but only SSCI and SCI have impact factor. So when we say impact factor, refer to this platform. Also, Scopus is another very good platform that many journals are indexed under Scopus, and you can find good journal under Scopus, good platform under Scopus. If a journal indexed under Scopus means should be good quality journal, right? But still you need to check publisher and see this journal also indexed in Clarivate or not, and what's the editorial board of this journal. Almost 10 to 15% of all journals under each discipline have indexed in Clarivate. 25% almost indexed under Scopus, right? So when you search in Scopus, you can find 25 top quality journal in each discipline. Or if you search under Clarivate, you can find 10 top % journal. Also, there are another list and indexing system, ABDC and ABS. ABDC is the Australian Business Deans Council. This indexing system is very famous in Australia. So this indexing system index journals based on A, B, C, D, so and A star. So A star is a very good journal, and followed by A. And also we have ABS ranking. That ABS ranking is very well known and popular and important in business schools. So the origin of this indexing system is in UK. And this indexing system index journals and the rank journal 1, 2, 3, 4, and 4 star. 4 star is the best journal, and followed by 4, 3, 2, and 1. So another step to find a good journal and good platform is searching within these different indexing systems. And then when you shortlist some journal, you need to go to journal webpage and see aim and scope of journal, and see your paper suite this aim and scope and can fit in this aim and scope of this specific journal. So after you make sure that your paper is suitable to submit to journal, you can go ahead and submit to this journal. There are some submission system. You need to be familiar with this submission system. For some publisher, use a Scholar one like Sage, Emerald, Taylor and Francis. Wiley use Scholar one. Scholar one is a platform under Clarivate, but Elsevier has its own platform. Before was Avis, and now changed to Editorial Manager or EM. So after selecting journal, you need to go to instruction of journal to prepare your paper, and if you need to modify some part of paper to fit in instruction of this journal, you need to do, and then you can go to submission system and submit your paper. And after submission, very, very briefly, after submission, when you submit your paper, okay, you will wait until you receive some comment from the reviewers. 3 things can happen after you submit your paper. One thing is desk rejection. If editor review your paper and see your paper is not suitable for this journal or doesn't have enough contribution, editor will reject your paper without sending for review. Desk rejection also is very common. And don't disappoint when you get desk rejection or rejection from reviewer. I published more than 70, 80 papers, but I can say I got rejection more than 300 times, right? For each paper, I received a few rejection, sometimes more and sometimes less. Sometimes I got 5, 6, 7, 10 rejection from 10 different journals. So finally, I found a good platform for my paper, that editor liked my paper, and also reviewers are happy and satisfied with my paper. So don't disappoint when you receive rejection. Rejection is part of process of publication. Without rejection, it's not possible to publish. Okay, so the first option is desk rejection. If editor doesn't reject your paper, editor will select some reviewer and will send your paper to be reviewed by the reviewers, right? So reviewer will review your paper. It's very, very rare that your paper can be accepted in first place. But if your paper is very, very good quality, okay, so it's possible to get acceptance without any revision. But it's very rare. And normally in this situation, reviewer gives some feedback to you, minor revision or major revision. So after you receive comment from reviewers, you need to do some step to address this reviewer's comment. This part is very important. Can actually in this level, your responses to the reviewer can cause your paper is accepted, or your paper is rejected. So it's very important that how you address to the reviewer's comment. So you should be very humble, and you need to read and read the reviewer's comment. Sometimes I say, when you receive comment from the reviewer, you should not touch your paper for revision for a few weeks, right? Or a few days at least, and read the comment for many, many times to understand the reviewer's comment. And then you can create a table, write in one column, you write your reviewer's comment, and then another column, you address reviewer's comment one by one and highlight a specific part that you revised and is related to this reviewer's comment in your paper. So there are some tips to how can we deal with reviewers' comment, but we have no time to go through, but I will share this PowerPoint with you so you can see some tips for addressing reviewer. Thank you very much. Sorry, stage 2 and 3, I go actually faster and have no time to stop and explain in detail. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
If you have any question, I'm happy to answer your questions.
Somebody raise hands.
Yeah. Now the guide பண்றேன். Oh, that's a very fantastic delivery, sir. That was very useful and motivating. Thanks for sparing your valuable time and sharing your wonderful experience. We are very grateful on behalf of MGR Educational Research Institute for giving you very worthy tips in publishing our research papers in top journals. Hereafter, we will never get disappointed if our papers are rejected for a few times. That was very motivating, sir. Thank you very much. Now this is time. There's a participant to ask 3 questions. 2 of you will be permitted. Please unmute your mic and ask the question. Let that be very short and sweet. And ask it in English.
Mr. Dinesh Kumar Gupta.
Yes, Dinesh Kumar. Dinesh Kumar Gupta. Dinesh Kumar, start asking your question. Can you hear your mic? Yes, please.
Next, Kaliswari. Okay.
Kali, sir, let's give opportunity Mr. Abdul Jamal. He has already unmuted. Abdul Jamal, please ask.
Yes, sir. This is Abdul Jamal from Chennai, sir. I have a doubt with the expert. Most of the international journal, peer-reviewed journal, they're asking 2,000 USD to publish an article, right, in Elsewhere, Scopus, like that. For that, no, I'm expecting suggestion from the external expert, Dr. Mustafa Rasul, sir. Please suggest us that how to publish an article without paying a journal. If you suggest some articles or journals list, it will be good for us to publish in a highly reputed journal, sir. I'm expecting a reply from an external expert.
Yes, sir.
Actually,
mute your mic.
Yes, sir.
Based on my experience, most of good quality journal in social science disciplines no need to pay for publication. If you want to publish your paper in open access, so they ask something for open access option. Otherwise, many of good journals and under famous publishers and with high impact factor and good quality journals don't ask for any payment. Actually, paid journals can be a sign for low quality of journal, especially in social science. In science discipline, we have some very good journals. They ask for payment for publication. But in social science discipline, I think 99% of journals no need to pay. Good. Publication.
Thank you, sir. One more question. One more question is permitted, ma. Our technical coordinator, Mr. Ratna Pogandi, will unmute your mic. Please raise your hands.
சொல்லுங்க.
ஐயா யார் பேசுறீங்க? கேள்வி யார் பேசுறீங்க? கேக்குறாங்களாங்க?
இல்ல யாரும் கைய உயர்த்தல. சில பேர் மைக்கை அன்மியூட் பண்ணிருக்காங்க. வெங்கடேஸ்வர பிரசாத், அப்துல் ஜமால், சுப்பராயுடு. மிஸ்டர் சுப்பராயுடு.
Any question?
No, sir.
Not only one, that question only. Is there anybody who want to get it clarified? Okay. That's thank you. So there was one question. I think you have given all the clarifications in the speech itself. So they are not having any kind of doubts. That is wonderful. And then this is time to give our summary speech. I would request Ms. or Amuta to deliver the summary speech.
Yeah, sir.
Yes.
Hello. Are you able to hear me, sir? Hello. Are you able to hear me, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Good afternoon to all the participants who have participated in this wonderful webinar session. And this is Amuda from Dr. MGI University, Department of Commerce. First of all, I would like to thank our speaker, Dr. Mustafa sir, for giving his wonderful speech and spending his valuable time on how to publish a research paper in top-tier journals. As he discussed earlier, first thing what he discussed is everybody should have a positive attitude and a passion towards research. Only then they'll be able to give a good paper on their research. The contribution and the knowledge in our field as well as to the society is the main factor which can be given for research. And the three main stages which he has discussed is, the first thing is how we accept the paper. The three phases he has discussed. The first is before submission and submission and after submission. So before submission, we should be very clear about our title. The title is the main part of our research. And then he also discussed about the abstract, which understands the concept of our paper. And next is the introduction part, which is very important in our research. As he said, that introduction part markets your paper. That is the main thing. And we discussed the problem of the statement and the research gap in the introduction part. And next part is the literature review, which he has given a brief discussion about the literature review, the theoretical framework, measurement theories, and the structural theories. And next, he has also discussed about the methodology part, which is very important in our research. The methodology part contains the research approach and methodological choices, strategies to collect data, the study area, sampling, and the time horizon. All these has been discussed by him in the methodology part. And next, he has also discussed about the results and findings. And then the discussions about the conclusion part finally. And he also discussed about the submission, where your paper has to be submitted. The paper submission should be in the good platform, and also the more cited journals in your paper. And finally, he has also discussed about we should not publish our paper in predatory journal, which is also fake. We should be very careful about this predatory journals. And then he has discussed about after submission of the paper, the reviewer will review your paper. If your paper is rejected, you should not get disappointed. And again and again, we should address the reviewer's part, and whatever the command has been given by the reviewer has to be read once or twice and understand the concept clearly. And again, we start reviewing our paper based on the comments given by the reviewer. So these are the things which we have discussed today by Dr. Mustafa sir, and we are very happy for spending your valuable time on research, and we would have understood whatever the things we have to improve in presenting our research paper. And thank you so much, sir. And it's over to Panmuthumari ma'am for a vote of thanks.
Hello, are you able to hear my voice?
Panmuthumari madam, please wait.
Are you able to my voice, sir?
Yes, ma, it's nice, but please wait. There is one more thing to add. Next, it is time to honor our chief guests. On behalf of our President, Engineer Arun Kumar, and Joint Registrar, Dr. Jabra Sir, MGR Educational and Research Institute, we are awarding this appreciation certificate to our chief guest, Mustafa Rasuli Mansoori. All our mic will be unmuted. Please make let's give our high hand to appreciate.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me today.
So we have come to the conclusion part of this webinar. Dr. Pon Muthu Kumari is going to give the word of thanks. It's your time, Pon Muthu Kumari.
Okay, sir. Good afternoon to all. I am Dr. S. Ponmutmari, Department of Commerce, Dr. MJR University. It's my privilege and opportunity to thank our Honorable President, Engineer A.C.S. Arunkumar, for giving us learning support and permission to organize the webinar on how to publish our research in top-tier journal. I extend my sincere thanks to our Dr. D.B. Jabaraj, J.R., for joining this on the learning platform. I bow down to our honorable and respectable guest, Dr. Syed Mustafa Razlin Manish, for sharing us eternal knowledge with us. We are grateful to our Dr. Candy, Assistant Professor, Taylor's University, Malaysia, and Dr. Dharmaraj, Karpagam Academy of Higher Education for continuous support to our department. My heartfelt thanks to Kavinjar, Tamil Elan Director, IS Academy, for hosting this webinar. I express my special thanks to our HOD sir, to Dr. C.B. Senthilkumar, for making an extraordinary effort to arrange this international webinar. Thank you, sir. Highly useful, sir. My responsibility will not be complete until I thank all our department faculties and participate dignified faculties from various colleges and universities. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Muttumari madam. I want to extend my thanks to our technical coordinator, Dr. Rathina Pogadendi from Virudhachalam. Thank you, sir. Again, this video will be posted in YouTube also. If you have missed, if any of your friends have missed watching this Zoom meeting, they can watch in YouTube also. Thank you, sir. Shall we close, Sir Senthilkumar, sir?
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Close, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Bye, Pound.
Special thanks to our chief guest. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Meeting close பண்ணிக்கலாம்.
Thank you.